Okay, we are live. Welcome. Um, this is
Thank you.
TTI
Nice to be here.
UK. Welcome, Jeff. Um, so, got a few things that we're going to cover today. The FTSE 100 it did actually interesting, really, what happened yesterday because it did exactly what I needed. I was going to say what I suggested, but it wasn't necessarily what I was suggesting. It was what I needed it to happen, which was it popped forward after services PMI came out. It did manage to get back down to the original level. You can see, in actual fact, the market had gapped open in the morning, so it got a slightly better level, and then it started to surge up from that point yesterday. So actually, a decent day technically yesterday, and I think the writing is pretty much becoming splattered across the wall. Don't trade before one of those news announcements on 9:30 because. This has happened now twice in a row at least. I don't know if you remember when we did CPI last month, but CPI last month was when I took a trade early, and actually it took a dip, and I had to get back in at. It was a much better price, but the first trade was kind of hairy because I'd held on to it. So really good lesson, I think, that waiting for services PMI is one of the rules. Waiting for those big announcements is one of the rules. In actual fact, it may be that because services PMI is such a key metric for the FTSE, for the UK economy, and CPI itself is such a key metric. Maybe that becomes more of a play than anything else, but. We will see how this evolves because I think we'll have retail sales at some point this week. Is it today we've got retail sales? We quickly check the news.
Maybe have to be today, I think.
It might be tomorrow. No, it's not today. So this is what we got. We've got today. Pretty light trading day. So really because of this, I'm going to continue to look for upside, but I think it's going to be probably. It's not tomorrow either. It's next week. I'm going to continue to be
It's Aussie retail sales tomorrow. Yeah.
Aussie retail sales tomorrow, so that's going to affect the Australian stock market, and then Monday's kind of quiet. Actually, the next metric from the UK is next Wednesday, GDP. So won't be trading before 9:30 on next Wednesday, and that's it for the
Theresa
UK.
told them all to get knotted last night.
Yeah, did you look into that?
I had a little bit of a squeeze at it. I didn't see the actual thing. I heard the bulk of what she had. Well, not the bulk. I heard the highlights, the outtakes of what she had to say.
Yeah,
Good on
yeah. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. I thought it was a really good speech, really positive. I'm glad she's kind of slapping it to Boris Johnson. I've got. It's a tricky one, really, because obviously I'm an electorate, so I get to vote on these people, and Theresa May is not somebody that I would necessarily vote for. And it's not that I don't warm to her. I find her. I said to my girlfriend last night when we were talking about Theresa May, and she came dancing on the stage. She was dancing on the stage to Dancing Queen,
it.
because there was a little bit of backlash when she was dancing out in Kenya. She went to this little event and she was dancing in Kenya, and everybody was saying how embarrassing it was. And she did the same yesterday, dancing onto the stage. And she has got two left feet, and she's really robotic, and she's got no coordination. But geez, man, so what? Give the girl a break. I mean, all these people that are writing on about how bad a dancer she was, I'm sure none of them are Michael Jackson. It's one of those that you sort of think people in glass houses, and I thought it was quite sweet. I quite like it. I quite like the fact she's kind of like, that's not who she is, and that's not what she does on a
As
general
a
basis.
bricklayer, you don't need to know how to paint.
Right, exactly. And she makes no claims that she's like that. She's not like who's that guy from Italy, Berlusconi. She's not like Berlusconi who masks himself as many other things. She's an honest, hard-working woman who doesn't dance, evidently, but she's just having a bit of fun and just trying to sort of show people that she can be just a little bit more, have a bit more personality. So I really liked it, and I really liked the speech, and I it's a tricky one with the EU because I've never been one for leave, but as time goes on, I'm kind of I swing from one day to the next. Some day I just think, let's just go, let's just get out, because this is dragging on, and it's becoming a bit of a pain. And let's just get out, and we'll go on WTO rules and just see how things go. I mean, I know that there's going to be a problem with that in the longer term, but I really don't know, what else we can do, because it doesn't sound to me like we're going to get this second referendum. I was hoping we would, but from yesterday, Boris Johnson and Theresa May are probably not going to give us that second referendum. Sweet spot here with the pound for some downside potentially. I know you're going to cover the pound as well, but while we're on the politics, let's just have a quick look. We've got 2 o'clock. It looks like around about the US Open. If price is here, that could be of interest. It may be slightly higher and slightly earlier. Could be that point. We'd have to check out other aspects and elements like pivots and stuff. But somewhere I think price probably is going to get drawn up here at some points today. That price looks like a little bit. It's going to be a bit sticky. So there might be a few bumps in the road. Whether it gets to that point or not, I don't know. But it does look like it's probably likely to come forward today. I'm going to quickly check out.
Have the meetings finished? Are they done?
The conference, if it hasn't finished, it is all but done when the Prime Minister makes her speech. So right. we don't expect. Yeah, it's probably the end for fluctuations anyway. So they can now clear the way and stop some of the fluctuations happening. Theresa May was on at 12 o'clock yesterday. So let's just see what the reaction was with the market and whether it did have any 12 o'clock on the 3rd, which is here. Yeah, look at that. I mean, there is 3 black crows pretty much when no, sorry, that wouldn't be 12 o'clock. It's going to be there. Haha, interestingly, so it started to move to the upside when Theresa May was on.
So the market liked what she was saying, obviously.
Well, the pound certainly did like what she was saying, and I think some of the undertones were probably about the fact that she was confident about this deal. You know, she's kind of saying, just get behind me because the deal that I'm trying to get is really good. And you know, she's talking about holding her nerve with the EU. As you probably read some of the paraphrase speech, she's effectively, to paraphrase for anybody out there, she's effectively talking about holding her nerve and still getting this deal. You know, still getting the deal. She still sounds confident about the deal, but you know, one thing that I think that we can get behind the Prime Minister about is her what's the best way to put it? Is how polite. No, polite's not the word. Courteous. How courteous she has been during these negotiations, and how discourteous some of the European Union members have been. So, you know, it's things like that that start to solidify support. It certainly does for me. You know, it did grate me a little bit to kind of hear President Macron say what he said about the Prime Minister, which was quite dismissive. And she's never done that. I mean, there are other members, Boris Johnson, Jeremy Hunt, that have been just a bit rude and a bit cheeky. And I think that, you know, it doesn't help. But she's never done that. And that's certainly one thing that I could certainly support her on. So I think if people can get behind her, then maybe you know, she deserves the shot. She deserves to kind of like be the one that can potentially get that deal going. So we'll see if she can or not. Pound has moved to the upside here. So I'm just going to double check. I know you're going to do analysis on this as well, but I just want to double check the lines. We've got a daily pivot coming up, so we'll probably start to fade at some point. So a little explosive move. Fade from the daily pivot, and then I would say that there's some potential upside in the pound today. That may or may not play a part in the FTSE's movement today. What I'm really looking for with the FTSE is a bit of choppiness. You know, I'm going to be ultimately going for upside, but I think some dips in the market, I can pick them up and maybe kind of and maybe nibble up some profit, but I don't think we're going to get anything that explosive, because my real belief is that we probably are heading for this pattern to play out, this head and shoulders pattern to play out, and I think one more dip down here and then potentially through is probably what we're gonna see next week. That's really what I'm after. So maybe I don't trade. It depends on what the market looks like, and if it gives me a decent enough setup. But my mindset today is to look for those upside opportunities, but probably take profits rather than leaving too much or anything on the table.
Fair enough too.
So I know I've done my analysis first, mate, but let's pass it over to you.
Right, there's no rules. It's just do what we do. All right. Look, in terms of the majors today, I think I'm playing Catch the Falling Knife, and it's not a game I relish, but it's a game that I'm prepared to play if the cards fall as they may. Very, very bearish. There's no two ways about that now. We've broken. Oh, this is the euro I'm having a look at, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed how bearish the euro was.
Yeah, we've broken through the bottom of this range, and not only broken through it, we've smashed through it in yesterday's bar. So, very, very bearish signal. You would be thinking that there's some more downside here, and we're potentially looking at a new low if this continues. I won't be looking to trade it short, of course, from here, but what I will be looking to do is find a point at which we can maybe see some retracement. So where I'm looking is obvious. It's always going to be the case. There's an untested daily pivot sitting above us, but I need things to fall my way, and at the moment that is going to be a pullback, probably down to here somewhere, and then I can look to play it long. Very, very tough call and a hard call to make to trade this long, mind you. But if there's to be retracement and we can find it, then I think there's a beautiful target sitting there for us around about that daily pivot level, right about there. Going to be pretty nice target, I think, if we can get this going in the right direction. In terms of trading counter trend, I need to see at least a chart reversal before I can do that. I think we've probably got that fairly clearly on the 30-minute chart. Probably even got it on a 4-hourly chart. If we take a look at that, we've got a tiny little double bottom sitting there. So I'm good to go here as long as I get maybe a higher low to give me that indication that if price does come back to this area, it'll want to accelerate and retest this level, I would think. So euro for me is extremely bearish, but that said, I won't be trading it short until in fact I won't be trading it short, I don't think at all. I'll be looking for as I said, catching falling knife day, and if I can find the reason to trade that to the daily pivot, that's exactly what I'll be seeking to do. The other two are pretty much in the same ballpark. That is the pound and the Aussie, of course, but let's take a look at the pound first. Pound's pretty much gone to the daily pivot already. Not quite, but it's on its way. But having a look at the daily chart, again, you can see very, very similar to the euro, that it has, I don't know if it's really taken out the possibility of a right shoulder. There may still be the chance that could happen. I can't really find a neckline here that suits though. It's kind of down here somewhere, isn't it? Yeah.
Is that the weekly? Is it? That's the daily. Because with this one, with the monthly, the way it is, it has a chance for it to be a higher low, doesn't it? I mean, this is the slightly difficult read with the pound, and why the fundamentals are kind of important. You know, we are very, very close to that potential deal, but this could actually end up being a higher low here, couldn't it?
Yeah, look, well, I suppose it already is in many regards. The candle that preceded it and the candle that followed it don't exactly fill me with confidence, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's in fact two spinning tops here. I guess if you read that, it's suggesting there's a slowdown, in various momentum, and then a rejection. So yes, but then the next candle wasn't terribly encouraging, was it? It is interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting
Yeah.
as to where this is, and pretty clearly, if you have a look at these three bars, essentially we're in a range.
Yeah, but the issue that Sterling has got is that we don't seem to be too party to the announcements. That there is this this date that is becoming ever closer. The meeting that they're trying to do the deal on, which is October November time, end of October into November time. So if it was just about that, I think we could be confident enough that the pound may stabilise here. But we just don't know what announcements might be made between now and that time. The EU may come out and give a press conference, or Theresa May or Dominic Raab. That there's politics being played here as well, which Boris Johnson might put the cat amongst the pigeons, and there's just problems with trying to trade the pound on technicals alone, because there are factors behind the scenes that we're not necessarily going to be on top of when they're going to happen.
Then that's what makes it tricky, obviously.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that. Well, it was in my thought process earlier on to actually take some more money off the table here on this short, and I think that's probably not such a bad idea. 4-hour charts giving me that. I think I can add another unit here and bring it down to about here somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I don't think that's a bad move at all, because if it gets through this level, then I think we're back in bull mode.
Yeah.
Deep retracement, obviously, on that bullish move, but
yeah.
It is at a significant level. So I think I might even do that. I might just bank. It is Thursday. It is NFP tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we're going to drag this down to just above DR2 there. I think that looks reasonable. Okay. Done.
Yeah, great idea.
All right, so that's now what's given us where we get into the market here. So we're now in double profit. So we've banked, and we've now moved only 10 pips below entry, but we've moved our stop about another 70 odd pips. So we've banked it a little bit more, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, great stuff.
So what do we do here? Well, I think we wait. It's pretty clear to me that the daily pivot's going to be tested today, and probably in the not too distant future. If that's the case, shorts are back on the table, but I don't know that I want to add to my position at this point. I'll have a look at the smaller time frame. Yeah, I can kind of see this going on. So yeah, we might be up here somewhere. I'm not getting a really good read on it. It's not crystal clear, so I think we'll just move on and see if there's something better, mate.
Yep, not a bad plan.
Like the Aussie. Well, if you short the Aussie, then you're probably pretty happy. I would have thought it just disappearing off the face of the planet currently, and not too much going on in by the way of retracement. We got one, of course, on Tuesday that came back to the monthly pivot area, and as soon as it did, bang, waterfall. I guess in terms of cycles, you're probably looking for the daily pivot today. Gee whiz, this is extremely bearish. Again, I would need to see something of a reversal here, something that's telling me that this actually can retrace. But I wouldn't be super confident, that's for sure. This really is catching the falling knife material, I've got to say. Nice little hammer sitting there. That's true, and the market's reacting to that at the moment. I don't think I'd be trusting that. Where's the level? Out there somewhere. Let's make it clear. bigger, couldn't I? There, now we can see it. Okay, so there's the level, and it's found it, and looks very much like it wants to go through it, but it is pausing, of course, at that point. So it's not a bad place to trade a retracement. One wouldn't think. So I'd be happy to do it if I got the right signal so to do. And for that, first up, I need to have a double bottom or something of that nature. And really, I've got a hammer, haven't I? Or and a tweezer bottom, if you like. So that's part one. Part two is a higher low. So what I'd like to see is this candle, or even a next candle, doesn't really matter. It's a 30-minute chart, so it can happen very quickly. Maybe come up to this level here and then fall away. Give us the higher low anywhere here, and then we can look to trade it back to the daily pivot. But as it stands, I just won't be jumping in here because, as I say, that is definitely looking for a catch of a falling knife. Pound yen I am far more interested in, and it's interesting for two reasons. One is, yesterday there was a setup and a trade that I preempted in the show. I said if this candle, were to come back and give me a decisive bearish bar, in particular across the pivots, that would be a trade to the high side. Now, it didn't really give us a decisive bar, but it did cross both pivots. So there was an entry there, and it would have got you only a first take profit before it retraced, unless, of course, you didn't move your stops, which is not my practice. So that's a break-even trade there. The tough part today is it's retraced only as far as this level here, which is, it's got recency about it. You know, it's not a bad level. Price has bounced off it a couple of times, and I've got no reason to think it won't again. The tough part about trading that for me was that I was trading straight into these pivots, the daily pivot and the weekly pivot. So I'm going to let that go, although it is a nice rejection bar and a higher low, and it has come back inside this range. You can see the range that I've got depicted there. So if those pivots didn't exist, I would already be long this cross, but they do. So what I'm hoping for and expecting is that price comes back to this level and then gives me one of these. Gave me a rejection bar here, a low test bar, a hammer, doji, don't care what it is, as long as it's telling me the price is ready to go long. That's when I'll look to trade it. So, am I bullish pound yen? No. But am I short-term willing to take it long to the top of the range? Yes. Yes, that's a different question and a different answer. So I think that's where I'm at on this cross right now. I'm willing to trade it to the top of the range, but things will change there, and I'll have a look at these levels and see what happens at that point. So short term, we'll look to trade pound yen long, and let me take a look at 30-minute chart to see if that's going to be possible inside this session. Oh, look, as I said, it kind of was earlier trading this bar, but I just don't trade into the pivots like that. That's a strong resistance level sitting right there, and it's too hard. So I need to have something a little bit better. So I want price to come back to here. Back to here. And if it does come back to here and give me a nice little signal that its potential is for the top of the range, which is here, then that's what I'll be looking to do. I'd probably like to see it actually break this level and find the low. So if it broke below that trend line, found the low, then climbed back above it and retested the back side of it, that would be the time I look to enter. And that wouldn't be such a bad trade on pound yen if we can do that. So that's where I'm at on the four that I've been looking at all week, but I've added one. I've added Aussie yen. And the reason I've added Aussie yen is because let me show you why I'm looking at it. I can see that, I can see that, and I can see that, and that. So if I explain what all the that's are, we'll probably be a little bit better off. This is depicting a range, of course, and it's between pretty much 84 and 80 and 50, I suppose. So there's a bit of latitude in there. I am definitely seeing the break of that range being proved false, and I'm also seeing a left shoulder ahead and a potential for the right shoulder to form here. This is a daily chart, of course. So I'm actually thinking downside to here and then having a good look at it, maybe even through that level and forming the right shoulder over here. But I think there's room for a trade in here, short Aussie yen. So that's what I'm looking to do. If I go to the smaller time frames, I'll get there in a minute. Ready, set, go. Again, I see an untested daily pivot above me, which gives me a little bit of a heebie-jeebies if I'm looking to trade short. And the reason for that is the daily pivot likes to be tested. I also see the monthly pivot holding us up here at the moment, and it's a little bit tough to be entering the market long whilst ever that's the case. I do see a nice little hammer sitting here. I see all sorts of things that are possible, but at the moment going long isn't one of them because of the situation with the monthly pivot. So again, what I'd like to see happen is the monthly pivot break, maybe get a close up here somewhere, although that would be a little bit restrictive for me. Maybe there's where I'm looking at. If we got to here and then peel back off it, hit the monthly pivot on the back side, and then gave me a reversal bar, there's the trade in there. So that's what I'm looking for on Aussie yen. So there's definite possibilities here, but we're just going to have to wait a little while. Unfortunately, the setups aren't there just yet. Of course, we're coming up to the open, and things may happen rapidly thereafter. So the plan's set. I've got the bait out, mate. Just have to wait for fish.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to look probably at the pounds fairly early today as well, because I quite like the pound for some potential upside, and I think if there's a setup that I'd quite like to take it. I think the FTSE is going to be a tricky sell today, a tricky trade today, tricky thing to sell to myself to trade. So I'm going to probably be looking more closely at the pound on the open and seeing if there's anything I can take on. It's actually not too bad a level, and obviously I won't be trading on anything but a 5-minute chart. So I'm not going to be looking to buy and hold, but I quite like the fact that there could be some the potential for some movement on the pound early doors. So let's see what happens.
So what would you need to see?
Well, I've probably seen it. Let me just double check this on the 30, but I've probably seen some of it already. Let me bring this over. I think the weakness on the FTSE is going to play a part, but not to say that I won't try and trade the FTSE at some point. But let me bring you what I'd look for with the pound. But I think it's probably going to be a bit of a waiting game because I am looking for upside FTSE. I think it's a bit safer. This is as a half-hour bar is going to be not particularly good, but I think if it comes just a little bit further down, if it drifts maybe a little bit further down to this particular level here, and then manages to hold, then I would look for basically a 5-minute trend to be starting, and I'm looking for a 5-minute trend to be starting around about the 1.2936 area. I'm going to double check the levels here.
It's very close to the level I was speaking about. In fact, it's probably the level I was speaking about.
So, for a long.
Yeah, we're both looking at the same thing.
Yeah. So that's. Hold on one moment. The FTSE may actually. The FTSE. You see, the FTSE for me was a long from 95, but now it's dipped below that area. It's going to make it a tricky thing to sell again to myself. But I like the FTSE. You know, I like the FTSE for a long. I'm just going to double check my other charts here. Yeah, you see, I would go long now with the pound, but I can't go long into this bar. That's one of the issues. Yeah, it's not a particularly good setup on that. Yeah, so I'm going to wait on the pound. I think I'd need to see something a bit more substantial. Let's see. We're just going to wait it out. I think we're just going to wait it out. Let's see what evolves here with both the pound and the FTSE. The FTSE is, as I say, taking a significant dive down here. This area here is another possibility to start looking for those longs. But it certainly at this stage doesn't look like we've got anything. So yeah, let's sit on our hands for a bit and see what establishes itself. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Because this is a great time of day to trade, and I'd love to trade this pound right here and now, but I can't really justify trading into negative bars, even though the timing's good and the levels actually okay. You know, when I kind of bring the pound up, if we look at this pound on a 5-minute chart here, the level's okay. You know, we have had a break of this particular area here. I've got a level here. You know, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? But you can't trade into a bar like that. You know, these bars do actually tend to be okay to trade into many times, because well, usually when there's a dip below it, it's usually even better, because you know, obviously this is bearish, so people are going to be thinking, right, orders below, let's go. But actually, all that's happened is that it's managed to pick up from that particular level. So decent level, but nothing to set up on top of it. But this is looking pretty good. And actually, if I don't know if this would be a slingshot, but when I see this bar as well, I suspect that this is probably not a bad place to go long, because it is another negative bar. So. And it probably will explode from this area, right?
It's got to have mates. That's the only thing, and it's pretty much out on its own there. So it's pretty tough to just trade that bar. If it had at least one mate on the level, then I'm more than happy to trade against those. In fact, I love it.
Yeah,
I think it's a good ploy.
It's a great ploy, isn't it? Because, you know, knowing how negative that would be perceived as soon as the high is broken, that does actually suggest a decent push to the upside. I mean, you know, I could easily talk myself into a trade long here, but it's not a strategy that I employ. It's just a philosophy that I have, that this is likely now to break forward. So I can't really kind of trade it.
There's natural liquidity there, isn't there?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And you know, we are at a significant low as well with the pound, so there's probably quite a lot of orders set up of these levels, you know, because people are going to be tightening up as they come down here. Yeah, it's a shame, because that looks like a pretty good trade to me.
There'll be a second one, mate. There'll be a second.
Yeah, there will be. You're absolutely right. It's just a good time to trade, isn't it? You know, when you get the open, you know that there's extra liquidity in the market, and it will much more likely cause a nice explosive, fast profit-taking area that can be taken advantage of.
I think my quote of the day talks about this. I think so.
All right. Okay. Well,
I can't remember.
We got a few. Got a few other bits and pieces I thought we'd talk about today as well. Well, there's no point in
the market right now. We might as well talk about something.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to let you know. Oh no, I can't let you know for another 10. We are going to talk about the weekend's football matches, because you know this is another thing that I like to look at, just on a light level. But there are opportunities for people to make money if they're the slightest bit interested in the Premier League. So Tottenham are the team that I generally follow. I want Brighton to win, because Brighton is the town and the city that I live in. So I want Brighton to win, and I've got an affiliation with Brighton by geography. But I've supported Tottenham. Well, not supported. I've followed Tottenham since I was a kid. I can't say supported, because I think supporters go to matches, they buy the regalia, they it affects them when they lose. Yeah, nothing like that really really troubles me. When if Tottenham lose, it's one of those things. But I'm very aware of Tottenham. They're the team that I follow the results of. A bit like the Bears, when I sort of think of American football, I'm a Chicago Bears follower, but I don't think I'll probably in my lifetime go and see them play live once. So it's a bit like that. But last night Tottenham played Barcelona. Now Barcelona obviously are one of the biggest teams in Europe and very, very good. They've got a little player called Lionel Messi, who's an amazing footballer, maybe the best we've seen in the world at any one time. Few arguments about that, but certainly he would be
an argument no matter who you mention there. Yes.
Yeah, obviously, you sort of you get players like Pele and Maradona and maybe even Ronaldo. Could be a rival from current times.
Not even a homegrown one. What about Bobby Charlton?
Bobby Charlton, yeah, probably. Do you know what? All these players I haven't seen, so those guys I couldn't even make a comment.
Right, yeah. I grew up on those, the George Best of the world.
Yeah, well, George Best, I've probably seen enough footage to allow him to be put into the pot. I'd say, but Lionel Messi certainly one of the best players of the time because he continues to win the Ballon d'Or between him and Ronaldo. So Tottenham played Barcelona, and from all accounts, they got pretty schooled last night. It ended up 4-2, and Tottenham have walked away, potentially leaving the Champions League, and just not doing that well. They haven't really started the season that well. So, given that, let me just check if there's a trade here on the FTSE. One moment, mate. 1 moment. There is a trade on the FTSE. Let me just quickly see if I can get into this. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to get in here. Yeah, I've got it in. So let me just take the screen really quickly here. Mm-hmm. So I'm effectively trading a fade here. Now this level is a little bit of an issue. So we'll see what gives with that. But I quite like a potential push back to the upside here. Let me just double check. I've got something on that as well. Okay. So yeah, I'm just trying to trade back up to these levels. Now, I quite like the FTSE for an early move up. I'm just going to make sure I have got these in place as well. Okay, stops are in place. Just maybe a little bit low. Going to bring it down to these levels, but I won't mess about too much here. If the FTSE starts to fail down here, then I will take the trade off manually. There is this level here on the FTSE, but it's not particularly strong. It's a kind of it may well be this instead. It's that I always had a little bit of a question about that particular level, so I'm not 100% on it. So I am looking just for the FTSE to kind of push up into this area, and as I say, I'm not going to mess about too much today. That there's a weekly pivot, as I say, just up at this candle here. So that might even be a point to do the maths on it and see. But that's okay, actually. I wouldn't mind that. Yes, that's the point, to do some maths on it and see whether it's worth sticking with the trade if it starts to go through or not. But I quite like that. Quite a nice area to try and take this one on. So we'll see what gives with that. Okay, so back to the Premier League.
Yep. So how are we going to make money, mate? This is the burning question.
Well. So Tottenham Hotspur. So Tottenham Hotspur are I think a team in a little bit of trouble.
And what I quite like to do when I look at some of these games that that could potentially make money is I quite like to find a team, find one of the larger teams that aren't doing so well, and effectively put in a bet against them, because that's when you get the best value. Now, last week it was Newcastle. Last week Newcastle played West Ham, and they lost. I can't remember if it was at home or away, but they lost, and they were the team to bet against. Last week, Man United are in other. So so now I think we should go for Tottenham. Now, I don't think Cardiff aren't particularly good. You know, the difference for Man United was they were up against a team that were on the up. West Ham had started to win some games, so there was a bit more confidence kind of coming into West Ham. So they were against a team that were doing fairly well. With Tottenham, it's a little bit different. Cardiff are really struggling, and you know, they are not a great team away from home either. So what I think might be the bet here is the draw. You know, it's a good 6-1. I did sort of put my eye over some of these others, and I don't yet. Man United again could be, but again, Man United are up against a team that aren't doing particularly well. So you could go for the draw here, but 7-2 is, you know, 3.5 to 1. So you could go for a 7-2 there, or you could go for a 6-1 here. So I suppose my tip of the weekend, the nap, as they say in horse racing terms, is that right? I never knew why they called it the nap, but that's what they call it, isn't it?
They don't call it the nap here.
Oh, they don't. Okay. No, why is it called the nap?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
Okay. Well, they call it the nap in the UK. So the nap for me of the weekend is a Tottenham Cardiff draw, and we're going to go for a 6-1 with that one. And it's just down to confidence, you know. Tottenham, though they are at home, they have not yet moved into their new stadium. So without them moving into their new stadium, they are playing at Wembley, and sometimes in a completely different ground if Wembley's not available. So we'll see where they are playing, but effectively they haven't really got a home yet. So I think a Tottenham Cardiff draw. You could even go and put a small amount on the Cardiff win, because it's going to well and 59-4. That's going to well and truly cover. That's effectively 15-1. So you got a 15-1 and a 6-1. You know, you could put £10, £1. You know, you don't have to put a lot of money on this to get a decent return, and even hedge it with a Cardiff win. But the Tottenham win is something that I don't think is on the cards.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so have we got a bookie? How do we?
Well,
how do we win?
this is a website called Odds Checker, and effectively they give you the best bookie. They give you the best you get the best value that you can go for. So when we go to these bookies here, we start to see that the best value for a draw, which was the 6-1, I think is this one. Now that's not a company I've ever heard of. Here we go. We can go with Betfair. Betfair do tend to offer some fairly decent prices, so we could go with Betfair. And for a actually, yeah, and you want to go with this company? I'm not sure who these guys are. Add to Bet. Never heard of them, but there's so many different companies out now.
Oh, you bet. It's quite lucrative business.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they kind of spring up from all over the place. But yeah, we can go for this Add to Bet.
All right. So what we need to do, we won't do it for this round, but what we need to do is I'll have to send you some money, and we'll just put $1 on every week or something.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good.
We can then track it. And how many games are there? How many weeks?
In total, there's this. It's a 38-game season. We're about 7 or 8 in so far. So we've still got a good
30 left. At 15-1, 30. That's 4,500 by the time we're finished.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure how many 15-1s we're going to
on $1 stake. That's all right.
Yeah, you like the sound of that?
Why not? Better than bank interest, as they say.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so that's the tip of the weekend, mate.
Tottenham or a draw?
No, you want Cardiff to win or a draw.
Oh, sorry, Cardiff or a draw. Okay.
Yeah, because Tottenham are going to be the favourites in the game. So we're going for a
So
Cardiff win.
$1 on Cardiff and $1 on the draw.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, or you could put 50 cents on both. You know, we're just effectively trying to make some money, right?
I think we'll go with $1.
Go with $1.
Yeah, these halves, they're no good. These halves.
Then
If you stretch your brain too far,
Yeah.
one works good. I like one.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna go for $1. $1. $1 for Tottenham. Sorry, $1 for Cardiff and $1 for the draw.
That's it.
Okay. Sounds good.
How's your trade doing?
Trade is just it's coming to the lower end of the range here, but not too concerned just yet. You know, the thing with this is that I need to see I need to see this breakdown. You can see this in my line. So if the market starts to close below this area, then I will take it off. As I said, I'll take it off manually. But otherwise, I'm quite happy just to let this swing around a little bit, because this is a level here. And if it breaks down here, so the idea will be to go for upside regardless. So if it comes down and breaks here, then I will let it come down maybe to the lower end of the range, and then I'll try and pick it up down here again. So at this particular stage, it's no major panic. You know, there's a plan here if this wasn't the area to get in at.
Yep.
So we'll wait and see on it. Wait and see on it. So do you want to get to quote of the day now?
I can do that.
Break down a little bit. So let's remove this rather than get caught in here. Let's get that off the market, and then we'll just we'll let it come down a little further. I think the thing with this is that I'm anticipating some choppiness in the market today, but I do want upside.
Well, let's hope it comes, obviously, and at a better price.
And at a better price, yeah. So that's what it's worth doing. It's that, you know, I don't mind taking trades off before it hits stops, because the way I see this stuff is that if I've made my decision that the market is going up from this point, the first thing I expect it to do is go up from that point. I don't expect it to come down and test a low before it goes up. Otherwise, I would have wanted to get in at the low. You know, if I see it shape up down here, I'd want to get in here. So my when I trade, I try and go for timing that will give me a result, you know, fairly instantly.
Yep, I'm the same. I don't like hanging on to positions.
And actually, look, so it's now coming down. So coming out earlier than the stop it's proving to be a much better idea than sticking in there
and wishing and hoping. Yeah.
And wishing and hoping, yeah. So it's better to kind of like, and in some respects, that's how you make money, isn't it? You don't only make money when trades are going well. Sometimes you make it when trades are going badly, and you can just get out of it.
I actually think in most respects that's how you make money.
Yeah.
Knowing when you're wrong, having a wrong point, as you've got there.
Yeah.
Recognizing that if price goes to that level or beyond that level, I'm wrong. I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely tantamount.
Yeah.
To being a successful trader long term. Tantamount.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll look for a better price there. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Let this continue to come to the downside, and we will look, as you say, for a better price.
Yep. So, quote of the day?
Quote of the day, yeah.
Alrighty. Not too far away from what we were talking about before. And it comes to us like this. Investing should be more like watching paint dry or watching grass grow. If you want excitement, take $800 and go to Las Vegas. Now, the guy who quoted that was a guy called Paul Samuelson. You'll say, Paul who? Well, Paul Samuelson is actually a man of note. He won a Nobel Prize, as a matter of fact, for economics. So he's gone now. He died in 2009 at 94 years of age. But I think of all the people you'd want to be talking to about economics and investing, he'd be right up there. He was an advisor to two presidents. Kennedy was one. Who was the other one? I can't remember. Doesn't really matter. And as I say, he won a Nobel Prize in his field of economics. So I'd be tending to listen to him just a little bit. I think he knows what he's talking about, and that's why I've chosen his quote today. But when we're talking about, and I use this all the time, and if I go back to the chart, like I was saying before, if you're trying to catch the falling knife here, you can get into a whole lot of trouble. So it's far better for me to wait for the second opportunity, and the second opportunity will generally come as a higher low or an equal low, and that's the time to go, rather than when you first see the move about to take place. The way I trade anyway. And I'm dead set keen to get to this level, don't get me wrong, but I think if you are prepared to watch the grass grow and let the paint dry, then you'll finish up in a long-term far better situation than if you were to just, see a reversal bar. What was I talking about? I think the hammer on the Aussie. See that reversal bar at a good spot, and it is a good spot, there's no question, and just jump into the market. It's from my experience, and obviously from the experience of Mr. Paul Samuelson, a far better thing to do is to watch the grass grow a little, or let the paint dry before you jump into the market. So that is the quote of the day.
Yeah, and I like that.
Yeah, it's another one that all these quotes, they're quotes for a reason. They've come from people who generally know what they're talking about. And
watch the grass grow. Actually, could as it's Thursday, could we have a quick review and read of all the quotes of the week?
Why not? We can do that. We can go back to our little book, which has Jeff's favourite trading quotes. That's the working title, anyway.
Yeah.
We'll see how that progresses. And the first one came from Michael Marcus, as we now know, because he also was responsible for our second one of the week, and that's his credentials. Again, somebody who probably has a fair idea of, or a fair handle on how to handle markets in particular. And the two quotes were these. First one was, every trader has strength and weakness. Some are good holders of winners, but may hold their losers a little too long. Hands up, everyone hands up. Others may cut their winners a little short, but are quick to take their losses. Other hand up. As long as you stick to your own style, you get the good and the bad in your own.
Oh, do you know what? That's the second one's probably me.
Look, everyone's had a crack at both those, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I do end up taking my winners a little bit too short, but I'm very quick to take a loss. I'll happily close a losing trade very, very quickly.
Well, there you are. That is you. That's your style, and I'm very much the same. Very much the same as that, because I do not have a tendency to hold positions too long. These days, with the new entry strategy that I've found, which allows me to do that, I'm far more prepared to do that. But I'm not trading for intraday profit. I'm trading for to catch runs. So it's a whole different ball game, entirely whole different. In fact, I'm trying to catch reversals. That's what I'm trying to do, and pretty much the method I've just described to you is the same method.
Yeah,
it works pretty well. And quote number 2 was, the best trades. Mind you, I don't know that we actually got to decipher his exact meanings in here. In the last sentence, which is, as long as you stick to your own style, you get the good and the bad in your own approach. I think. Well, we won't go over it again, but I haven't been able to raise him. Mind you, I've looked and I cannot find any
I wonder whether
contact
that
information.
means, as long as you stick to your own style, you'll get the good and the bad in your own approach. I wonder whether that means in the long run you'll be okay. It's a difficult way to
That's how
interpret
I read
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, that's cool. I like that too. In the long run, you'll be okay. So that would be paraphrasing that last little bit there.
I think he's saying no matter which approach you have, it's not going to be all good, and it's
Yep.
not going to be all bad.
Yeah,
So take the middle ground, and I think
Yeah.
that's what he's saying.
yeah, and you'll be okay. I like that.
And the best trades are the ones in which you have all three things going for you: fundamentals, technicals, and market tone. And I think we had a good conversation about this, and I think it's
Yeah, I
absolutely
really like
true.
this.
There's absolutely no argument here from me. It doesn't mean you can't trade outside that, but what it means, and is exactly what it says. These are the best trades of all. So, if you're trading at a certain percentage of your account, they're the ones you want to be loading up on. The ones
Yeah.
where all the fundamentals, the technicals, and the markets and the market tone or sentiment, if you like, all come together.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't think we'd an argument out of that one either, and we're not going to argue with Paul Samuelson either. I think they're all pretty much on par with each other in terms of import. So that wraps up week one of our quotes. Jeff's favourite quotes. A little
Yeah.
stinger there.
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Very good.
3 minutes to go for new candles. Let's have a look and see if there's anything tradable from my.
Right. Well, the pound has managed to get a decent squeeze forward, isn't it?
Yes, right at the daily pivot. Hey.
Mm.
Yeah, so the second opportunity that I'm looking for may not come. If it doesn't, then so be it. But if it does, it'll be all the better for it, because we're going to get a good price here if it comes back to the level we're speaking about, which is right about there. So if we come back there and get a higher low, that's the time for me. That's what I'll be looking for on the pound. Pound yen, same really. I'm not that keen on the 30-minute chart, to be fair, because I'm still looking for a that was the tough one, wasn't it? We were going to, this candle here was tradable if the pivots weren't there. So this is still either way for me. I want to see what happens with this bar, and it's got an hour and a half to go. That finishes as a high test bar and can't close above these pivots. I think all bets are off for now, and I just have to wait it out until we get away from this area. But there's nothing there for me at the moment. And Aussie yen, my goodness me. Had you tried to catch the falling knife there on that hammer, you'd be in a world of bother right now. A whole world of bother right now. So that's one of the reasons why you don't try to catch the falling knife. It gives you a lot of grief a lot of times. And the euro, still got to look for that to pull back and give me that higher low. And the Aussie, yeah, look, if this level holds, and we do get a bit of a push up here again to this level, I think is probably the level, and then pulls back off it, gives us the higher low, that's when I'll look to get into the market. But nothing at this point.
Yeah, I've got nothing either.
The FTSE 100 has absolutely tanked. I mean, it's this is what's going on right now. Now, it's not to say that I don't want to pick it up down here. I do want to pick it up down here, but this is way too strong. And I suppose, yeah, you could get what we saw with the pound, where it's there's a big sell-off and then it just bounces. But that would not be too favourable for me. I don't think there's anything to look at here. This really does need some clearing out, and the way it's looking at this particular stage, it doesn't appear that this clearing out is going to happen this morning. It might well be that it's the afternoon that if the FTSE has managed to stabilise down here, that we start to see that upside again. So I'm just going to have to kind of suck this one up. There's almost nothing worse. Well, not nothing worse, but there's almost nothing it's no easy task to get into a trade and not make money, and then well, in fact lose money, and then find that you've got to effectively sit it out for possibly even a day.
It is no easy task.
No, and it's it's just what you got to do it, haven't you? And this is the thing. I think you almost you learn much more about trading when you lose, or much more about yourself when you lose than when you win. And I think over the years I've learned that my tendency to just try and make my money back has punished me so extremely that that all I do now is I went through a phase where if I lost a trade, I just shut everything down and had to walk away.
Everyone's done that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately now I'm not there anymore. I can look at the market and can control my emotions because I know what I need to see. And that first trade was okay. I mean, it was maybe a little bit questionable about whether it pushed back to the upside, but it was a worthwhile shout. The market was still an uptrend from yesterday, and I you often see these kind of bounces and retracements kind of back up to the to close a gap, if nothing else. But that hasn't happened. Very, very bearish this morning. I haven't really got a clear understanding of why, which is another reason that that I was looking for at least a fade back into this area. But this is the difference, you see. The day before, you were asking me why I wouldn't trade the fade from the morning, yesterday morning, and it was because I was looking for upside. And maybe in retrospect, the mistake here is that yes, I was looking for upside, but the market actually showed downside. So again, I was trading a fade rather than a trend. So one of those, lesson learned. I think there's two rules that we have effectively established this week. Number one, don't trade the fade in the opposite direction to the direction the market is going, even if it is upside, and my upside preference is stronger normally, so I don't mind trading counter trend when it's upside, but maybe a fade is not a good idea. And the other one is wait for those news events to happen and trade after 9:30.
Yeah, I think what we went through yesterday, that process is very, very good one. If you're prepared to put all those three things into place, I think it's a really good strategy to take.
I think the other thing is losing a trade and having something attached to it is okay, because actually, if you lose a trade but you win by getting a rule, then I haven't got a problem with that.
What will you need to see to get back into that, mate?
Well, it does become tricky. In saying everything I have just said, I'm bullish the FTSE because even though we do have a distribution pattern kind of going on, at this stage, when I look at this, and I will try and get back in here at these lows. At this stage, this distribution pattern that we've got, let's get rid of some of these lines. We don't really need them so much. This is becoming kind of obvious, right? There is a head and shoulders pattern going on here. I think yesterday when I was looking at this head and shoulders pattern, it was getting kind of difficult to ascertain where this right shoulder would get to. It could have become a lot lower, but there is a head and shoulders pattern here. So if I just draw in what we've got with that, then we got that, just in case anybody can't see it. But I think that obviously the thing with a head and shoulders pattern is that it hasn't got a huge probability of working out, around about 30%. But the thing with this one is that it does sit in the right area for a head and shoulders pattern to be working out. So this is going on. So there's a head and shoulders pattern going on here on a 4-hour chart. But the reason that I'm still bullish the FTSE, or certainly looking for buying opportunities with the FTSE, is the weekly chart here does not give me a strong signal. That does suggest that there could be downside, but I could quite as easily have that one break to the upside and it be a continuation bar. It looks more like a continuation bar than a reversal bar. So until I see the reversal aspect of the pattern, so if this is a two bar pattern, until I see this bar close as a reversal bar, I'm still going to be keen to try and grab some upside out of the FTSE, and I still think it hangs on. Now we are at the lower end of that range. We're at the lower end of the head and shoulders neckline. So far I have got my area. I've got my level that I can trade from. What I can't now do, where before I would trade off the 5-minute bar, because the shorter term trend could have still been in existence, just with some fluctuations. This can happen in the morning where it gaps down and then just flies forward. So the 5-minute bars were fine. Now I've got a 5-minute hammer, which suggests that there's some upside here, but I can't trade this because the dip has been too deep. So with a dip so deep, you have to start going up time frames. The 15-minute would be obviously a starting point, but realistically, the one I've got to rely on is this half-an-hour bar because of this. So I've got to wait for the half-hourly bar. If the half-hourly bar shows some signs and signals of reversal, then I will again try and get into the upside. But I like the level. I like the fact that even without the bar forming, we are starting to see that there is some buyers down here. So the level looks okay. But I need some proof that the level's going to hold, and then I can trade it again. I haven't got a problem with trading this one more time.
You know, it's interesting. The pound and normally, consequently, the FTSE are the only two really movers at the moment that I'm looking at. The euro and the Aussie are either holding or going the opposite direction.
Oh, show me what you got. I mean, it'd be good for me to take my eyes off this for a little while.
So you've got the pound, which has gone to resistance already. You've got the euro, which really hasn't. Here's the resistance up here. So it's just hanging in there. And you've got the Aussie going in the opposite direction. So it's not necessarily dollar strength or weakness we're looking at with the pounds. It's pound strength. And now we've hit resistance. The question is going to be, is that strength sustainable, or is it not? If this were to be the current bar on the 30-minute chart, if this were to be a bearish and decisive bar, maybe getting into this candle by half at least, I'd be looking to trade long above that candle then. And the reasoning being that if the bulls were only prepared to go to resistance, then the bears will take back over.
Yeah.
But if that's not the case, then and the bears can't push it back below this surge, if you like, then the surge should continue and go to the next resistance level, in my humble opinion. So that's what I'll be looking to trade. If they don't pull back, then they can go to heaven. They'll go without me, unfortunately. Well, if they're going to heaven, they'll probably go without me anyway, no matter who they are.
Yeah, interesting bar, isn't it? That 30-minute bar, because it did swallow up that the appearance of that kind of spinning top shooting star bar.
Yep, sure did.
We completely engulfed it, and the fact that it's got above that daily pivot for you, would that give you any other aspect of the message?
Yeah, it's a strong signal.
Oh, even though it's only just closed above it, you'd still consider that to be fairly strong.
Yeah, because the bar itself is telling you a story.
The
reason that it's pulled off here is because it is at a resistance level, but it's only pulled off, that tiny little bit. So it's still a very bullish signal to me, and that's why I'd love to see a bear bar here.
Yeah,
so I can actually play that level where we've been. It's not looking likely at the moment, though.
No, it's not, is it? It's on a bit of a tear.
Someone's got the message.
Yeah, they have, haven't they?
Speaking of messages, how would this play out, do you think, if we had a scenario where a stock market or a trading market decided that the blockchain was now strong enough to allow trading on that platform, if you like, or that instrument as a Bitcoin acceptor. So you could actually trade on that market with Bitcoin.
Trade on the Bitcoin market.
No. Trade on, let's say, for instance, the Australian Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Said, okay, we're now open for business because we've installed blockchain infrastructure or whatever, however that works, and you can now trade the market with Bitcoin. So in other words, it's a legitimate currency.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, there are kind of moves for that. I mean, I don't know whether Bitcoin. In actual fact, we should probably have a crypto section, which I'm sure we could get into. But you can. There is kind of moves with the banks to try and come up with something like that. I mean, I'm not sure whether it's going to be Bitcoin. In actual fact, I doubt it will be Bitcoin. There's something called Ripple, which seems to be fairly popular amongst the banks. I think it was designed by the banks. Actually, I'm not exactly sure. I have to look into it a little bit further because cryptocurrencies aren't something that I'm hugely up on. But if it did, whether it is Ripple or whether it is Bitcoin, Bitcoin being the daddy, then I think it would have a huge effect on it. Because the thing about any of the currencies we have, they are ultimately they're fiat currencies, aren't they? So everything is disposable, apart from gold. Everything's disposable. So maybe Bitcoin and Ripple and Ethereum start to become the next genuine kind of way to pay for things and become the next currency. And if that was to happen, I mean, geez, the value of those things would just go through the roof.
Yeah, look, I don't think for 1 second that it will be Bitcoin or anything that's currently showing. I think if it is the banks that actually control this, and who's to say they won't be, because they're the major players that they stand to lose immeasurably if a cryptocurrency does in fact hit the market in general, the broader market. And you know, something has to give at some stage. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah.
But that these guys will lose control is beyond my comprehension.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening because.
Well, which is why Ripple might be the currency.
Yeah, may well be. I don't know, but that's why I'm very hesitant to say that Bitcoin will be a currency in the future. Yeah,
well, Bitcoin does appear to be a lot more kind of Wild West than any of the others, and I think you're right. I mean, when it comes down to it, as far as I'm aware, Ripple is something that is being kind of designed and controlled by the banks. Of a way to make transactions between banks. I'm not sure whether they designed it, but I think that's the idea of Ripple. So I think if it's going to come in, it'll probably be that one. When it comes to Bitcoin, I'm sure just some regulation being put on it, it could actually qualify as well, because it is the thing with Bitcoin is it's the oldest, isn't it? So it's probably the one that that most people would see as most valid. Yeah, and I wonder whether just with a few bits and pieces tweaking it here and there, whether it could actually become a more regulated currency. And as you say, the problem right now is that because it's not regulated and it's a bit Wild West, then the banks can't and governments can't control it, and they're not going to be too keen on a currency like that, I wouldn't think.
No, they're not. Look, and the thought process behind it and the design of the blockchain itself, fantastic, and I think it's a great concept.
Yeah.
Getting it through is the hardest part. And we used to have total control, less internet, if you like.
Yeah.
But I think they're now working out ways to control that too. So
yeah,
who knows? Technology way beyond my control. And I really shouldn't be commenting too much about it because I'm way short of being any authority on the subject. It's just a point for conversation that I'm bringing up, really.
Yeah, well, no, I quite like it as a point of conversation, mate, to be honest. And I also, I think there may well be, you know, maybe another little feature, because the thing is, people love that stuff, don't they? There's a lot of people that are really interested in things like Bitcoin.
Yeah, the Empire Strikes Back. You know, that's what that's all about.
Yeah.
You know, we can gain control of our money.
Yep.
Don't think so, folks. But you know,
yeah,
it's worth a try.
yeah,
It's worth a shot.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I think it's going to be worth looking into that just a little bit further.
I suppose, or back to the question. Yeah, cables hit resistance, and now having a little flirt with that. Looks like it's going to drag the euro with it, but the Aussie, oh yeah, it's having a little bit of a crack too. So there are buyers at support, I suppose, is what we're saying, and I'm not sure if there's sellers at resistance yet, because this doesn't look like a whole lot of sellers have jumped back in. Interesting, we'll see. Speaking of gold,
yes,
we were talking yesterday. Sorry, are you back in, are you?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this 15-minute bar. Just a little speculative trade. Yeah. Yeah, let's see what happens with that. Yeah, sorry, mate. So gold.
That's right, gold. We were talking yesterday. If 1202 was it went, then this thing would take off. Maybe it's in a buy position now because it has retraced.
Okay, yeah, let's have a look at that too. Sorry, let me just explain the the trade a little bit here.
That's the 4 and I'll go to the day. Your trade, sorry.
Yeah, let me just explain this. It's a bit speculative, but the reason I've got in so much earlier than I really wanted to is that I really like this 15-minute bar, and I really like where it's bounced from. And obviously, I'm looking for upside, you know. So I've got no question about trying to trade this higher, and then looking for downside. This was always the idea, you know. When I first got into that first trade, if it started to break the lows, then I was going to look down here. Now I've got a reason to get in down here now. So that's a pretty strong bar. If it turns out to be a half-hour bar, even better. But what I'd kind of like to see is this pick up before that half-hour bar is complete, because it'd be great if this hourly bar didn't look so negative. You know, if it ended up some sort of doji or something. If this ends up kicking forward 20 or so pips in the next 10 minutes, that's going to look pretty attractive as a trade. So I will continue to pick up, the market down here. I might even add to this if it dips down this time, because this is going to be a strong level. You know, it's a strong level. It's been proved as a strong level. The 15-minute bar looks pretty good. I'm not necessarily trading the break of the 15-minute bar, even though that's ends up being the buy area. I'm trading the 15-minute bar itself. So if it comes down again, then I'll take it again down here. So we'll see whether that works out. But I'd like to see whether this half-hourly bar can also turn into a hammer that's going to look even better. But really, what would be great is if this can take off to the upside in the next 10 minutes or so. I just want to show you one other thing as well. This where is it? Yeah, the resistance. It was really the resistance level that exists on the pound. Is another reason that I think maybe we're not quite on top of it. You've got it here, haven't you? Because of the pivots, and when we do have the pivots, so that's another reason that I think that there's a chance that we start to move a little bit further forward with the FTSE as well. And there was a little trend line here too. That was the other thing I was going to show you with the FTSE, and it's on a 15. And it comes through here. That's the other reason. It's come right through there, and because price has held there and then also got back up again and closed there, this is the other reason I kind of like this down here. So it's fairly loose, but you know, as I say, all I can really state with this one is that upside is my preference, and I'm really just looking for some hints to get in today rather than anything hugely strong. I'm very, very doubtful that this is going to break down today, and that's what's given me the confidence to try and get in here.
Okay, you may have to wait a little bit of time for a result, but
yeah,
I mean, that level looks great. I mean, why wouldn't you trade it there, really?
Well, this is it. This is it. I mean, what are we looking for? If we're not looking for price points and hints and tips, what are we looking for? And you're never going to get a setup down here. I mean, I suppose it depends on what you consider a setup, but it's very unlikely you're going to get a setup down here because you know, all the indicators are pointing to the downside. When we kind of come down here and we bring in an RSI, you know, all these are pointing to the downside. It all looks really, really negative. But as was this, you know, this was something similar in some respects. But obviously, we ended up getting a slightly different bar down here. This bar doesn't have that opportunity because of where it started. But when this comes down here, it ends up bouncing. That's never going to give you a setup, except for the fact that it's oversold. But that in itself can be a very, very dangerous way to trade. So I use the indicators as a little bit of a loose guide, but I won't always trade off the back of them. I mean, you do get some really good trades on indicators, and I think when we look at the quotes of the day, and that guy was saying the 3 things that you want shaping up, that's where you bring your indicators in if you want those really safe trades. But as you say, you know, if you've been in the market a long time, then you're not going to necessarily just take trades off setups. You're also going to take trades for other reasons, and my reasons on this one are more to do with what I believe the market sentiment is, and I don't believe the market sentiment is for the FTSE 100 to break down at this stage. So if it comes down to a specific low, then I will trade it, which is obviously what I'm doing.
Happy days. Good to have that explanation, because people will be thinking, wow, this is going so far south.
Yeah.
Why are we looking to trade it long? So, and that reminds me of another quote from Warren Buffett, and I'm not going to share it with you today. I'll save it for next week.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you were gonna bring something in here. There goes the pound is it's just tipping through that daily pivot I can see on your chart there.
Yeah, it's trying. It's not convincingly through there yet, but it's trying. I'd love to see this turn dark and get down to here. Then I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Not just yet.
I'm not sure what these drivers are. This is the thing with it, isn't it? I'm not sure what the drivers are with this.
Yeah. It's that time of day. Traders are in the market.
Yeah. But just, you know, maybe see, this is the thing about some of those conferences as well. It made people very jittery about you know, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, maybe just people just waiting for it to end. You know, wait for it to end, and then if there's nothing, a little bit like waiting for that 9:30 news announcement. If there's nothing huge that comes out off the back of it, then we can go back to kind of resuming maybe a little bit of buying. You know,
transmission.
Yeah. You know, specifically when the pound gets to a specific level there. You know, it's on a primary trend line down there, isn't it? So maybe that's all people are waiting on.
Maybe. NFP tomorrow too.
Yeah, NFP. Yeah, there's always something, isn't there? So were we going to talk about NFP and you know, we were talking about the something. What was that strategy that you had? The breakout.
Oh, the breakout strategy.
Yeah. Were we going to talk about that with NFP?
Yeah, we will. Let's touch on this gold thing first.
Oh, good. Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, that's what we were going to talk about. Yeah.
And then remind me of NFP, and I'll
yeah,
go through that.
Which actual fact, you know, that does actually, to a degree, that does match up with the NFP thing, doesn't it? Because you could trade gold with NFP.
I've never traded gold in my life. Yeah. But we were talking about it through the week, and as you said, Is my screen on?
Yes, mate. Yep.
Okay. We were talking about it during the week, and we were thinking about, or talking about this 112 level, 112.02, I think, was the number. I've got no idea why. 112.02 was the number, not 112, but there you go. But if I'm on my strategy,
Can't see your screen now.
okay. Let me see if I can help there. How about now?
Let's see. Yep, better.
Okay, now I've been speaking about this pretty much all day, all week. Not gold, but the setup where we've got a chart reversal pattern, we've got a hammer sitting here, and we're looking for a higher low. So what have we got? We've got a higher low, and a lower higher low, which is all very interesting. This is the signal that Julian loves, that we're talking about on Tuesday. It's the higher low, but for some weird reason, it comes not as the first higher low or even the second higher low. When you're in a range, you've got to wait for that range to break, then take the low. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's where you go. So you've got to find some bar to trade, I suppose, or some way to do it. But that's pretty much what he's looking for. What I look for, once that's happened, and I've missed it, which I obviously didn't get into it, and I probably won't because I've never traded gold in my life, so I don't know what I'm doing. But this here is a very, very good signal for me that if this level breaks, this will go a fair way, which is interesting. So that's what I'm looking for at the moment. I'm looking for that to break, but as I say, I can't trade it because I've never traded. I probably can.
Yeah.
I will. Why not?
Well, Julian was talking about this. He was talking about this on. What was his price? He had a price, didn't he?
Well, I thought you said 112.02.
112.02. That's right.
And for the life of me, I've got no idea why 02, but it's probably just a level that's been picked from somewhere. There, that's probably the level there.
Oh, I think there was there was something that I saw with the 112.02. What was the 112.02 thing?
Certainly in this vicinity.
I think it was. Oh yeah, you're right actually. Yeah, because there's that trend line there. Yeah, I'm not sure why he went. Oh, was it because of? Yeah, I tell you what. I tell you why I think he may have said it was because the previous trend's high was 112.02. Not the measured move. You see that the previous weekly pivot. That's also the kind of that's also kind of the high, isn't it, of the last trend? I know we had one more, but we came down and up again and then down. So I guess the last trend was sort of started there, yeah. And that's what's that 112.02, is it?
Yeah, 112.01ish, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I wonder whether that has any bearing on it.
Right. Okay. So what the premise is that once this level takes effect, if you like, once this reversal takes effect, it will continue. Where's the measured move, though?
The measured move. The measurement. I don't know how he does that. I'm not sure his technique, because he's got a specific kind of way of doing the measured move, isn't he? That I've never done. So.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I'm playing around here. So if there's anybody listening to this thinking, oh, there's a trade, no, please don't do that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just having a conversation. And that's pretty much where I'm at. Anyway, NFP, right?
Yes, let's have a quick chat about NFP. Yeah.
Okay, so the way I would look to trade this, and I'm almost certain without looking at a chart that it's not going to be possible, and I'll show you the reason why. What I like to do is go to a 4-hour chart and pick the days of the week that precede the announcement. So, in other words, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in this case. So today hasn't finished, but we need to be in a range, and we're anything but that. So if we look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we are not ranging at all. We've gone from here to here, and we haven't even stopped yet. Maybe we've stopped, I don't know. But there's no defined range, and there has to be a defined range before I'll even think about trading it. And the reason for that is when we've got a defined range, by definition, we've got support at the bottom of it, and we've got resistance at the top. Just, well, let me use the ones that we use for the FOMC statement, because they're still there. So there's your entry for the FOMC statement breakout, and there's your entry long. And of course, the stop short, the stop for the short is the same as the entry long. And as you can see, that whipsaw effect on the announcement didn't take us in because we defined the top of that range and went above the top of that range. Top of that range I considered was about there somewhere. So we put our stops above that by 10 or 15 pips, depends on where the range is. And the same at the low of the range.
Yeah.
And they're probably the low of the range. So we put our stop and our entry the same amount as on the high side as a stop and an entry. So if it breaks and keeps going, well and good. But if it stays within that range, and this was what we were talking about yesterday, after the news is announced and price starts to react in the fashion that you would expect it to react. And that's exactly what's happened here. Because the FOMC statement, of course, was an interest rate rise for the US dollar. And normally and naturally what would happen after that is the US dollar is going to strengthen.
Yeah.
And therefore the euro versus the US dollar is going to weaken. And that's exactly what the story there is. And if you had traded that breakout, there's your risk, 80 pips. So far, over 3 to 1 on that trade. And that's why you need to trade the range and not the trend.
So we can Can we do that on the? I see what you're saying. Is there anything we can do with that on the NFP?
No.
Okay.
Because your range isn't well. You can define a range if you like using the 4 days, but we don't know where that is yet. Let's say it doesn't go any further than there, and your range in those 4 days is going to be somewhere like that. So your risk on the trade is going to be 10 pips above there. So let's say there, and 10 pips below down here somewhere. You've got 180 pips of risk. That's asking the market to do way too much to get you into profit. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with 70 or 80 pips. Not such a bad deal. And I don't think this is going to change the trend to that degree, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
NFP for mine, in different circumstances, does do something to the market. But if you go back and have a look at the last 10 NFPs, and I haven't done this, and I must do this, I think you'll find that there's not a whole lot of difference between what happened before we went into the NFP statement and after we came out of the NFP statement. It used to be that it defined the market, and it was the major news, absolutely the major news of the month, each and every month. I don't know that it still has that capacity to be fair. And I've been questioning that for quite some time.
Yeah.
That's not to say it's not to be taken notice of. Of course it is. And the good part about it for me is it happens at the time of the week where I couldn't give a damn, couldn't give a tinker's cuss about what happens on Friday night here for me, because I'm doing other things. It's certainly not something I take much notice of. But of course it can bend the market, and it used to bend the market quite a lot. I think these days it's a little bit more friendly than that.
Yeah.
So no, I won't be trading FOMC breakout on that particular set of circumstances. This is what I'm looking for. This is perfect. Top of a run. Chances of it reversing are very, very strong, because there is an interest rate rise due. This was so set up, you know, when you look back, and we're all geniuses, of course, in retrospect. But when you think about this, the market have been rallying into the announcement. You've got reversal patterns going on left, right, and centre, and you're expecting an interest rate rise. You don't need too much more convincing, do you, to get into that short? You would have thought.
Like it.
As I say, we're all geniuses in retrospect.
Well, absolutely, mate. Well, talking of that, let's push off for the day then, and we'll be back next week. We will be looking at Cardiff for our draw for our footy game today. Still looking at the FTSE 100 to pick up and start to push forward at this particular level, and we will be talking about the quotes, Jeff's quotes of the day as well, to kind of start building a decent book and a decent picture about that stuff. So yeah, have a good weekend, mate, and happy trading for the rest of the day, and I will see you on Monday morning, and everyone else will see you Monday morning too. Yeah,
cheers everyone. I'm still waiting for those higher lows before I get in.
Oh yeah, did you want to do any wrap up on your on what you're going to look for, or are we kind of done with that?
Waiting for pullbacks. So
okay,
give me the higher lows now.
Yeah,
and then I can trade on.
Okay, mate. All right, sounds good. Sounds like a plan. All right, have a good one, mate. I'll see you next week.
Happy days.
See you guys.